everybody for being here this morning. It's really a pleasure to be here. I've had a wonderful journey this past year, and I'm really glad that I have such a welcoming and warm community to be able to talk with about my journey this past year and about some of the things that I've learned, some of the people that I've met, and some of the wonderful experiences that I've had. So when Dennis asked me to reflect on care for the poor today, I was a little bit nervous. I was really excited, and I really tried to think a lot about what that meant for me, about what it meant to care for somebody that was poor, and what that really meant in the context of the year that I've experienced it. So before I get into that, I just want to give everybody a little bit of context from my experience. Dennis said I did a year in the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. So some of you may be thinking, what is the Jesuit Volunteer Corps? What is this year of service that Noah had did for the past year? So basically what this program is it's a year-long service commitment. And you get placed in different cities around the U.S., usually at a social service organization, sometimes at a school, sometimes at another organization. And you really become integrated into that organization's mission. You get to work with them for a year and really get to know people, get to know clients, get to know different coworkers, and see what it's really like to work with different marginalized populations or work with different populations of people. Part of this experience is also living in a community. In Washington, D.C., I lived with 5 other individuals in a group home, and it also involves kind of limited financial means. We were given enough money to cover living expenses, to cover food, utilities, transportation, and then we had $100 a month for extra expenses over that. So by no means were we experiencing poverty or any of that, but all the basics were covered, and we had a little bit of extra spending money. Some of the core tenets of the JVC were spirituality, social justice, community, and simple living. So we had one community night each night where we really just hung out, played board games, really got to know each other, really got to build that community, and we had one spirituality night, whether that was sharing a favorite prayer, a favorite spiritual exercise, a favorite meditation, anything. So we really got to know each other and really experience what it meant to live with another group of people through that. So my specific job placement, which Dennis mentioned earlier, was I got to work at Miriam's Kitchen, which I thought was the coolest thing. They're a really great organization run out of DC, and particularly their mission is to cater towards the chronically homeless population of Washington, D.C. So you might be asking yourself, what is chronic homelessness? What's somebody who's experiencing chronic homelessness? So that means that they've been experiencing homelessness for 3 years or more, and they have a disabling condition. So as a case manager at Miriam's Kitchen, I got to work with this population, and I don't know, I think working with the population isn't really a good way to describe it. I really got to get to know people, I really got to build relationships, I really got to talk with people, and I really got to hear a little bit more about their stories. So my role as a case manager, I helped connect people with medical services, connect people with mental health services, look at housing resources, look at immigration, and help people apply for income benefits. So that's just kind of an overview of what I was doing this past year in DC and of the Jesuit Volunteer Corps kind of model as it operates. So now to get into care for the poor. So when Dennis first asked me to reflect on this subject, I was kind of asking myself, what does it mean for somebody to be poor? Who am I caring for? Who are we caring for? What does it mean to care for somebody that's poor? And I feel like at the beginning of this year, like before I went into this work, I had this pretty clear image, like, okay, there's a man standing on the side of the road, he has a sign up asking for change, this person is poor, we need to care for them. Oh, there's somebody sitting downtown the streets of Seattle, he has kind of like a little bit of dirt in his face and kind of like a cap pulled over. There's somebody who is poor, there's somebody that needs being cared for. But as I worked in Miriam's Kitchen, as I got to know the variety of stories of people walking through the doors, people in business suits, people that had full-time jobs, people that had families to take care of, people all around this range, this really got a lot more blurry for me, and it got really, really hard. There's not really like one group of other people who are experiencing poverty, experiencing poor, or who are poor. The lines really started to blur. And one of the most interesting things I thought, is a lot of times when I was working at Miriam's Kitchen, when I was standing behind the case management desk, I had my Miriam's Kitchen t-shirt and my name tag that said no, and I was a case manager. And a lot of people would come up to me and they said, you know, you really gotta do something about all these other people that are here. There are people that are making noises, and there are these other people with mental illness, and these other people with substance abuse, and they're really causing a lot of problems over here. And they're always talking about somebody else. And it was so interesting. And whenever I would talk with people, there was always this sentiment of like trying to help the others. I would be handing out toiletries at the toiletry cart, and somebody would be, oh, I don't want to take so much because all these other people need toiletries. As well, I was talking with one of my clients who had significant mental health concerns, and she voiced to me her dream of someday opening up a day center for folks experiencing homelessness, so she could then pass it on and help other folks as well. So this just continued to blur what this meant what it meant to look at somebody else as poor and myself as not poor. And it kind of led to this realization that each in our own ways, we all have our own areas in our life in which we are poor, in which other people are poor, or we have our own marginalized identities that we hold on to, as well as everybody else in the world hold on to. This isn't really like an us and them. This is kind of each one of us has different parts of our own identity in which we're poor. So that made it a lot more complicated to look at the second question. How do we care for somebody that's poor? What do we do then? So again, at the beginning of the year, walking out of orientation for the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, I walked into Miriam's Kitchen, I had my blue t-shirt on, I had my name tag, standing behind the case manager desk. All right, I'm ready. I'm gonna help these people. I'm gonna see what I can do. I'm really gonna do my best to help them and to connect them to the resources and to do things that I can do to help them end their homelessness and help them get connected to mental health resources. And it was really gratifying at the beginning to be able to hand out vitamins, and here you go, all right, thank you. Hand out people's clothing orders and hand out, or help people with IDs and everything. But then as the weeks and stuff started rolling on, I got a little bit more frustrated. As you hand people the clothing orders, they look at it for 2 seconds, say, I don't want this, hand it right back to you, and you just feel terrible. Oh, I didn't know. It became a lot more human and a lot more realistic of a perception. When you got handed back a pair of shoes that you try to give somebody and they have the hole in the bottom of the shoe, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I wouldn't want this pair of shoes either. Like, what does it mean to care for somebody? Not just for somebody that's poor, what does it mean to care for another human in that instances? So as the weeks went on, and as I started to form relationships and I really started to get to know these people, the instances of handing out vitamins and handing out clothing and feeling really good about that started to transform into working with people on different tasks, working with people on things that were a little bit more complicated. And recognizing where my own perceptions and where my own ideas of how things should go kind of got in the way of really helping people. Or really being there for people, not helping others, but really being there and working with them through a situation. One of the most striking memories I have was working with one of my clients, John, who was working on a reapplication for Social Security income. And he had been receiving it. You have to reapply after a year. So he came in and he had his application, and he was really flustered. And he's like, I don't know how they want me to fill this thing out. Like, I have a brain injury, and this thing is like 6 pages long, and like, I don't know what they're trying to think. Like, I can't even do this. This is ridiculous. And so I look at the paper, and it's due today, of course. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, and it's 6 pages long. And I'm looking front and back, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you're getting like money from the government, and what you need to do is you need to fill this out and submit it, and then you're set. Like, you're good. Like, I'm thinking it's not that difficult. Like, you can really do this. And then I was thinking, and I was like, there was a little bit of judgment that was passing on my part. Maybe there was a lot of judgment that was passing on my part. And so I'm sitting in here, and we sit down, and we're filling the application out. Like, okay, like, well, what was your disability, and when did this start? And we're filling this out, and then all of a sudden, I'm just transported back in time to when I'm working on an essay for my freshman year English class in high school. and it's due the next day, and I have an essay, and I'm thinking, man, I don't even want to do this essay, this is ridiculous. Why would I want to turn this essay in? Like, I don't even know what to write about. And my mom's there, and she's like, oh no, honey, like, it's fine, you'll be able to work on this essay, like, and then she like kind of like coaches me through the steps of what to do, and then finally my essay is there. So I'm thinking, in that situation, I'm transported back, and I just stop for a second. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, this person, like, this is me. I've been in this exact situation before. Like, how am I frustrated as somebody who has such a human reaction to a situation that I've been in the exact place before? That was really powerful for me, just to realize, like, yeah, how much judgment I had at the front end, and then how much perspective that was able to give me on the back end. So what does it really mean to care for the poor? What does it really mean to be in a relationship with folks that might not have had the support system that you had growing up? What's the difference between feeling productive and feeling accomplished by, oh, I helped you finish that task, I helped you accomplish something, now you have Social Security income, now you have housing, versus to sitting and building relationships with people and listening to them about how it's been really hard to not be able to be denied from Social Security and be denied from housing time and time again, and not really get that feeling of productivity or accomplishment that you really want, but really like being in a relationship and belonging with people. Another one of the stories that I really, really enjoy, one of my favorite clients to talk to this year was this guy, I think we called him Psychology Joe, because he walked in and he probably an image of your stereotypical homeless man. He had like some longer shirts on, longer pants, dirty, big long beard and everything. And he would come in and he would tell me all about the multiple multi-million-dollar hotel chains that he owned, all his Mercedes-Benz, how everybody was using all of his psychology tricks and everything. And he talked to so many different doctors, and it was a long different stories that didn't really make sense, and it kind of went all over the place. But every day, for 2 weeks, he would walk in, and I would go up and I would talk to him, and I couldn't really remember what we talked about, and I can't remember the specifics of what we talked to day to day, and if really any of it really made sense. But after talking to him for a couple of days, he would come up to the case management desk, I'd greet him with a smile, and I'd say, hey, how's it going? How are those hotels going? How are your Mercedes? And even though we didn't really talk about anything, like, I just really enjoyed talking to him and getting to know him and kind of building a relationship with him. So yeah, and that was difficult at first because that wasn't productive. Every time I tried to mention like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like, have you worked on trying to find housing? Have you worked on trying to find or applying for Social Security or like trying to implement some of those more productive, more sense of accomplishment things? He would immediately keep telling me about his hotels and about his Mercedes-Benz and everything. So productivity was kind of out of the question, but that relationship, that base of the relationship was really still there. It was really awesome to talk with him about that. So going from there, I guess some of the biggest lessons I learned from this year was just the importance of building relationship, of really talking with people. I was able to help lead some of our volunteer orientations for Miriam's Kitchen. And a lot of the volunteers ask questions to us. They ask, well, if we see somebody that's experiencing homelessness in the street, if we see somebody that we want to connect to, what's an appropriate response? And the things that we would tell the volunteers is we would say conversations really mean a lot. You can give money to folks if you want to. If you do that, your expectations for where the money should go should probably end with you giving them money. But the thing that really makes a lot of a difference is to talk with folks, is to ask them if they saw the Seahawks game the other day, ask them how things are going for them, and really be open to the answer and really be open to talking to them about their day and figuring out how things go. So one of the other things about caring for the poor that I really, about my work this year that really resonated with me was letting go of my own expectations for what I think other people, or the ways that I thought other people should run their lives, or the ways that I thought my present should be dealt with, or should be, what my relationship with people should be. I feel like oftentimes I put expectations on what I thought my relationships would be with other folks, or how I thought other people should spend their money, or should really be, should really be living their life. Specifically, one of our guests, Tony, he just got his Social Security check for his first time, and we were really excited. We've been working for a while. And so a week later, he walks in with a brand new pair of shoes, a brand new suit jacket, and some nice new headphones and everything. He spent the majority of all his check on this, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, Tony, like, you know, you could, and then like, all my budgeting information is coming in, like, you could have spent this on different food, you could have spent this on different places to stay, and everything. And again, like, I kind of had to stop myself for a second, because in that instance, Tony had the ability to make choices for himself. He had the power to make his own decisions about what he wanted to do in his life and about how he wanted to spend his money. And in that instance, that was how he wanted to spend his money, and that was how he wanted to do the things that he wanted to do. So as much as I wanted to put my own expectations and my own thoughts about what he should spend with his own money, Tony, what was really important in that instance was him being able to spend his money on the things that he wanted to. So, sorry if this is a little bit all over the place. So I guess just to kind of conclude, to wrap up, I think some of the main things I learned about caring for the poor and about existing with other people is it's not a one-way relationship. For me, it's really about investing in relationships. It's really the relationships and the experiences that were most influential for me was the ones where I really got to talk with other folks. I really got to hear their stories. And I really got to kind of curb my own agenda and really listen to the needs and the wants of other folks and what they really wanted to do. We all have those identities in ourselves and those parts of ourselves which we are poor, and we all have those identities in which we can relate with other folks in different instances. It means so much to be able to talk with people and to be able to start conversations and to be able to break it down to how I identify with people. To conclude, what does it mean to care for the poor? It means to build relationships, it means to share yourself with others, and it means to let go of your expectations and really get to know other people for who they are. Thank you so much.
Before you sit down, could you just sort of briefly tell us about your next adventure?
Okay, yeah. As a few of you may know, this is my first year with Gender Volunteer Corps. And so I signed up in the middle of this year and applied. And ended up being invited to serve internationally with the International Volunteer Corps, which is an amazing opportunity. I'm very excited for it. So this next year I will be serving in Belize City, Belize, and I will be working in Belize Central Prison, working with young men ages 13 to 18, helping them. They're taking online high school classes, so I'll be helping tutor them in writing classes and reading classes and math classes, and basically to help the youth facility that runs in the prison down in Belize. So I'm really excited for that opportunity. Thank you.
So the first Sunday of the month at Wayside, we usually celebrate communion. And I want everyone to know, I was talking with Noah ahead of time, said we should have had special name tags that FFON, which stands for Friends and Family of Noah. But in the UCC, we celebrate open communion, which means if you're here today, you are encouraged and invited to come to the table and share in the bread and the cup. And likewise, we make it clear that if communion is not your thing, you don't have to feel embarrassed by sitting out and letting other people take communion. It's just whatever you wish to do. And today, Jillian Hutton, has prepared something special for us. So I'll let her explain that.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay. Okay, so along with what Noah has said, caring for the poor means caring for others as well as ourselves. So you've probably been wondering what's going on up here. And so we have little lunch bags that you can take with you that have a juice. Some are grape, some are not. And a little cracker to remind yourself of the communion and what that means to you. Or you can care for the poor in another way and give it to someone else that you see, or someone in your family, whatever speaks to you the most. The other reason is that Christianity is a to-go kind of thing, and it's not just coming here on Sunday. It's going out into the community and helping others, filling ourselves. So we invite you to come up, if you feel comfortable, to have communion our good old-fashioned way, or take a bag to go.
Do you have a server still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Will a couple people come up and help us?
You're all invited to come up as you feel. Right.
We have traveling music. We can join together in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give
So Noah has a blog, right?
Yes.
Place on the Planet?
Yeah.
And so what do they have to do? How do you get on the blog?
It's noahrjohnson.wordpress.com.
Okay, noahrjohnson.wordpress.com. I'll put that in Tuesday tidbits, but keep track of him this year.
You can sign up if you want to get
Okay.
a notification when it posts.
And I don't know if it was on that or one of his Facebook things. He said he posted, I had a great time this year, sitting around, getting to know other people, singing a lot of I had a hammer. And so I thought, how appropriate as a send-off. The words are in your bulletin. Laura brought her guitar, and I think Dylan has a tambourine. We're going to do this upright. I'll get out of your way.
Okay, so I want to start specifically showing D, and I invite members of the choir and others who can sing to actually start the song. Starters. Okay.
I hadn't warned Noah about this part, but we thought it's not every day we have someone taking off for 2 years of volunteer ministry. And so I thought it would be appropriate that we might have a blessing and a sending forth. So Noah, if you could please stand up. And you need to come and stand right here. Because I've always had this vision that if the lightning bolt of God, everything down right there. And now what I'd like to do is to invite everyone who's ever wanted to get a hand on Noah to please come up. And I know in some churches it's called laying on of hands. We just call it a blessing. So come on up if you wish. Or stay seated if you wish. If you can't place your hand on Noah, place your hand on someone in front of you. There are still people coming up. As we go through life, we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. Sometimes it's those who've gone on before, and sometimes it is those people who are very present and near and dear to us in our lives. So, Noah R. Johnson, as you set out on this ministry for the next 2 years, may God be with you, may God bless you, and may the thoughts and prayers of all those gathered here today, those family and friends who are far and those who are near, may their blessings be with you to uplift you and uphold you and to sustain you in times of great excitement, in times of great frustration, and sometimes in times of despair. But go on your way with our blessing and the blessing of the God who put you here. Amen.
Amen.
In our closing hymn, you will also, don't sit down yet, you can stay standing. And if we could sing verses 1, 3, and 5, will you come and follow me? Noah has been called to a special ministry for the next 2 years in Belize. But each and every one of us has been called to ministry every day, to care for the poor in the ways we can, to try to understand some of the things that Noah has shared with us this morning about relationship and connecting with other people as truly human beings, as sons and daughters of the God who put us here. So go into the world and do that. Amen.